One way to understand the complexity of the English R is to think about it in terms of architecture. Just as two houses can look the same from outside and be completely different inside, two English R's can sound the same from outside and show very different tongue shapes once you look inside. To build the same R sound, native speakers use not just one, but a whole range of different tongue shapes. These go from bunch to retroflex, in other words, from tip down to tip up. We know that while some speakers use both tongue shapes, others exclusively use tip-up shapes or tip-down shapes. What we don't know, however, is what determines the acquisition of one tongue shape type or the other by each individual. In this study, we address one potential explanation as put forward by Heine et al. 2020, that there might be different tongue shapes for rhotic and non-rhotic accents of English. First of all, previous studies suggest a preference for tip-down in American English, a rhotic variety, and for tip-up in Anglo-English and New Zealand English, which are both non-rhotic varieties. Secondly, tip-up shapes are observed more frequently in prevocalic contexts and tip-down shapes in posvocalic contexts. As posvocalic R is only produced by speakers with a rhotic accent, they may be more encouraged to develop tip-down shapes. To test if rhoticity influences the acquisition of tongue shapes, we looked at the pronunciation of the English R by French learners of English. Our hypothesis was that French learners with a rhotic accent would tend to prefer tip-down shapes, while learners with a non-rhotic accent would tend to prefer tip-up shapes. Our data collection is still ongoing, but for now we present results from 10 French learners of English, 6 with a rhotic accent and 4 with a non-rhotic accent. Each participant had to read a list of 20 words in isolation, in which R occurred both in prevocalic and postvocalic position and surrounding both front and back vowels. Each R produced was then categorized as tip-up or tip-down. Our analysis revealed that learners show a variety of tongue shapes similar to that found in native speakers. Some used both tongue shapes, some only used tip-up shapes, and some only used tip-down shapes. However, no speaker with a non-rhotic accent used a fully tip-down configuration. Now, among speakers using both tongue shapes, we observe two tendencies in the distribution of tip-up shapes and tip-down shapes. First of all, speakers strongly preferred tip-up shapes in prevocalic context and tip-down shapes in postvocalic context. None of them displayed the opposite pattern. Secondly, despite this strong preference, speakers sometimes shifted to tip-down shapes in prevocalic R. However, these few tokens can be explained by co-articulation with the surrounding vowel. For instance, prevocalic R's produced with tip-down shapes always occurred before closed front vowels, which are generally assumed to be incompatible with tip-up articulations. Coming back to our initial question then, does accent rhoticity influence the acquisition of tongue shapes? What can we say? French learners' productions support the idea that prevocalic R favors tip-up shapes and postvocalic R favors tip-down shapes. Now, did this preference influence the overall pattern of tongue shapes acquired by rhotic and non-rhotic learners? So far, it is true that no fully tip-down pattern was observed among non-rhotic learners, and this difference could be due to rhotic learners being more prone to acquiring tip-down patterns in postvocalic context and extending them in prevocalic context. However, only one rhotic speaker used a tip-down only configuration. Furthermore, some rhotic learners acquired fully tip-up patterns, and others preferred tip-up shapes for prevocalic R, even though they had developed a tip-down shape in postvocalic context. As mentioned, this study is still ongoing, and other French learners of English are being recorded. We are also recording videos of the lips alongside ultrasound data to investigate not only learners' lingual but also labial articulation of English R. If you have any questions or thoughts about our study, I'll be happy to discuss them with you. Otherwise, feel free to contact me at this address. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of the conference.